Good, how are you?
Fine.
Cool, man. Yeah, what'd you get?
She forgot the apples. We was already up here. We get home. She couldn't find her apples. We had to ride all the way back up here.
Uh-huh.
And the cashier said, "Oh, hey, Star, here's your bag."
Oh, okay.
She was grabbing on me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the store's empty there.
I know.
No milk,
Yeah.
no toilet paper, no water, nothing.
Right.
It's empty.
We are talking about the pandemic of lies on left and right by people who are science illiterates or cynical people in the media who are doing it just to attack the president. And those who say they're protecting the president are actually doing him the gravest disservice of all, because he himself is taking it seriously, while these schmucks aren't. That's the amazing part. He's taking it seriously enough to ban travel from Europe, and these two schmucks are on the radio saying, "Oh no, don't worry about it, it's nothing. It was all out to get him. It's all a hoax." To me, that's criminal. And then they're comparing it to the swine flu epidemic, which they claim was bigger and killed more people. But you didn't hear about it because the vermin in the media were protecting Obama. Well, you have to understand something. Not all viruses are equal. And the transmission of viruses are different. And the transmission of swine flu was different than the transmission of human to human than is the COVID-19 virus. This one is very easily transmitted from human to human. Swine flu was not easily transmitted from human to human. And as someone who was working in the field of health sciences during the early days of the HIV epidemic,
Do you know when you're getting more stock in? Do you know what time?
Should be in the morning.
Okay. Like 6 in the morning?
What are you looking for?
Nothing in particular. Just going to tell people.
Well, our fresh comes in tonight around like 9, 10 o'clock.
9, 10 o'clock, okay.
The frozen comes in the afternoon.
Okay. All right, thank you. Frozen in the afternoon. Have a good day.
it was very, very interesting for me to learn why HIV did not spread rapidly in the world. I learned it from a brilliant epidemiologist who taught me that the reason HIV did not spread rapidly in the world is because it's a very difficult virus to transmit. It required a direct contact with bodily fluids. And so therefore HIV was difficult to spread. He had told me if the HIV virus had been easily spread, as is COVID-19, most of the world would have gotten it. Now that is the differential between, for example, going back all the way to the HIV virus.
Here's a gallon of milk somebody doesn't want. Who needs milk?
And this one, which is that the HIV virus was very difficult to transmit from human to human. On the other hand, this one is very easy to spread, which is why most responsible leaders in the entire world are locking their nations down. But apparently that didn't make it to the schmecks in the media, who are still repeating the big lie from 3 weeks ago that it's all a hoax to beat Donald Trump. The president himself has moved on past that point. But they haven't. They're still stuck as though they've fallen into an amber pit, repeating the same ba 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 ba. It's fake news. Fake news. It's out to get Trump. Fake news. Fake news. My job as a talk show host is simple. It's to entertain you and educate you. Fortunately for you, you're listening to an educated man who's a little knowledgeable in this field, not the world's leading virologist or epidemiologist, but I know how to read the literature, having earned a PhD in the field. I wrote a best-selling book in 1982 called Maximum Immunity, translated into 6 languages. I'm a little bit of a background studying the immune system and viruses. Doesn't make me an expert. It makes me able to read the medical literature. And I am telling you that the president himself now knows what this epidemic is capable of. And it's not panicky of him to shut down travel from Europe, as these morons sitting on the side bench who belong on a basketball court, not talking to human beings about an infection, are saying. We're living in very, very strange and dangerous times. I'm one of the only voices of sanity in the media right now, certainly on the conservative side. The shills on the so-called right are doing the president the greatest disservice. If you care to comment on your 401k, the phone number is 855-400-SAVAGE.
There's a new millionaire coming to our shores every day. You know, I'm the grandson of immigrants from Russia, to be quite honest. So my dad and I talked about this. He said, "Do you think
By the
my
way,
father
we should
would be
mention
proud?"
who your
Of course.
dad is. I know you're a man in your own right, but your dad is a radio star.
Yeah, Michael Savage, who taught me well. And I'll give you one story of Michael. When I was a young kid, he took me to the zoo and put me in front of the lions in the lion cage and let the lions roar at me, so I would never be afraid of anyone yelling at me in life. So,
Whoa!
Thank you, Dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it worked.
My son was on Neil Cavuto's business show today on Fox Business, and a great guy filling in for him. Wonderful man. I always liked that man's work. He's very kind to my son. He didn't act like the slime in the meeting.
So much pain inside.
Because I said,
Hey, hi there. You shop here too, huh? How you feeling? How you feeling?
oh, I've worked all day, I'm dying.
Oh, man. Right.
All out. And I was
Right.
afraid if I waited, there wouldn't be anything tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right, you poor thing.
I
Yeah,
know.
I know. You have a good night. Are you working tomorrow too?
7 a.m.
Wow. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I gotta get some rest.
Right on. You gotta. Yeah. I'll fix your tag.
Yeah, trying to trip
You
him
take
up.
it easy.
And my son really
Thanks.
made me proud. He was so good in the media. He's a movie star. He always could have been a movie star. I never wanted him to go into acting and modeling. You know, when he was 14, he was so good looking. I said, don't go near those people in that world. You know, kids always wanted to be a model or something if they were good looking or stuff like that. And I said, don't go near them. It's a destructive world. Anyway, here we are, and we're talking about the economic and medical impact of this disease, now called a pandemic. And I'm going to take a few callers from doctors and others on this issue. And when I come back, and maybe for the rest of the hour, I'm going to give you some positive news, which is how to get rich during a financial depression. See, I have studied the Great Depression ever since I was 18 years old. I've always been sort of a pessimist. My parents were Depression children, and I was steeped in the mentality of what the Great Depression did to them. And I was told, no matter how high up you go, always prepare, it's going to fall down on you, you know, whenever you think it's going to happen good, it's going to happen. So I was always kind of waiting for the axe to fall. And I was told that civil service jobs were king during the Depression, and anyone who was a cop or a fireman or a teacher lived out the Depression very well. They were actually able to buy small houses in Brooklyn and Queens, for example, New York, of the kind we were in, because they had stable, good jobs. And civil service jobs were very, very coveted during the Great Depression. But what you don't know are some of the fortunes that were made during the Great Depression. And I'll tell you the story of how the Publix supermarkets were built. I'll tell you how Ian J. Gallo's winery began in the Depression. I'll tell you about the other tycoons, some of them, how they began during the Great Depression. So maybe you cannot sit there and wallow in fear and think about how to capitalize during these times for yourself and for the family and for the good of the nation. Let's go to some callers, please. 855-400-7282. I don't know where to begin, truthfully. I'll start with Mr. Rand in South Carolina. Rand, thanks for calling the program. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael, thank you. I've listened to you for years. I have most of your books. I really enjoy it, and I'm really looking forward to hear your comments regarding the financial downturn. But as a physician, I've been a physician for more than 40 years. I'm still practicing. I'm a virologist or infectious disease guy. But I've noticed a couple of things that I consider the response and the hysteria to be very much like the TSA at the airports. They can't pass their own IG inspections where they send bombs through, you know, at 85% of the time. And I see my daughter called me to say that in Palm Beach, Florida, where she lives, an airplane landed, 2 people were on it, the hazmat teams arrived, they policed up those people and took them away, and they let everybody else walk off the airplane and go into the crowd. Cuomo did the same thing in New York. So we've got a lot of half-hearted things, and we have some things that are not targeting the real issues in terms of safety. I don't think anybody's ever stopped a significant virus, the common cold, the flu, whatever. But even if we're making efforts to do so, the newspaper in our town in Charleston for 4 days in a row had headlines harping the terror, nature of the virus, and so everybody ran out and bought supplies. And
So wait. So you're thinking as a physician that it's not as bad as they are saying, and we shouldn't take precautions. I don't think you're saying that.
I'm saying there's no way you can, not be careful enough. So it's I can't argue that you shouldn't take every precaution you can. I'm saying some of the things they're doing are ineffective, and other things they're doing are affecting things that don't directly.
I agree with you, but to err on the side of caution, I think, is a reasonable way to approach this, doctor, don't you?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I mean, let's put it this way. Would you go out into a crowd right now and say it's so mild I don't really care if I get it?
Not necessarily, but I also don't feel that, given the limited epidemiology we have, that being I'm not that young, I'm 66, so I'm getting at the age where now people are starting to get it, but you look at who's dying from this, and you look at the magnitude of illness and so forth. I think when they closed all the colleges to the younger people, I realized that could spread disease, but we don't know how widespread the disease is now.
Right, and here's another thing, doctor, just being reasonable and scientific about it. The reason that so many people are nervous about the coronavirus is that it's a new virus. It is spreading very quickly. It's easily transmissible. We do not have a vaccine, and we're still learning about the virus itself. There's a big learning curve here that requires a lot of study. And for people to say it's not that bad, people get over it quickly, I would say not so fast. We don't know the long-term effects, nor whether this virus will mutate or the recurrence rate. I think the recurrence rate is rather high with this virus. Have you studied that?
I think not only the recurrence, but what's going to happen with the recurrence, we don't know. But
So I say, so for people in the media who claim they're Trump's friend to say, don't worry about it, it's nothing, it's media hype, is irresponsible.
I think if you watch Trump, I don't think he's ever said that it's nothing. And he's, as you said...
No, he hasn't, but these shills are saying it today, that it's nothing. The shills are saying it today.
I'll get off. I think your ancillary things about the economy and what this has done will be something really interesting to listen to. So,
all right, let's go to that, doctor. Thanks for listening so intently. So let's talk for a minute to break up the monotony here, again, on the richest families whose businesses started during the Great Depression. Great article in Forbes from a number of years ago by Chloe Sorbino that I found. And let me just read it to you about the public supermarkets. During the Great Depression, many survivalist entrepreneurs in urban areas opened small grocery stores in their own homes or in abandoned storefronts. These entrepreneurs bought stocks of non-perishable food because if they could not sell their goods, at least they and their family members could live off the unsold inventory and avoid hunger and starvation. That fallback likely helped George Jenkins quit his steady job at grocery Piggly Wiggly when his boss wouldn't see him for a short conversation. Though he spent 8 hours driving, he then started public supermarkets in 1930, and it paid off. With $29 billion in sales, it now counts more than 1,000 stores across the Southeast, bolstering his family's $5.2 billion fortune. There is then the story of the McKee family and their Little Debbie ice cream pies, or cream pies. There is then the story of E&J Gallo Winery's roots, which go back to 1933. It was then that a survivalist entrepreneur brother team started crushing grapes in a California shed. Their product quickly grew popular due to its cost. They sold the Gallo wine at 50 cents a gallon, which was half the market rate at the time. The Gallo family, now worth over $10 billion, now owns the world's largest winemaker. And there are others. I can give you other stories. I'll give you one more about French fries. There's also Iowa native J.R. Simplot, who bought an Idaho potato farm in 1929 and worked the land by himself. Anything they didn't sell, his family ate. But they soon sold a lot. He was also an innovator and became known as the father of the frozen French fry for the freezing process that he invented himself. Before his death in 2008, the company boasted supplying a third of the nation's French fries, most notably to McDonald's. The Simplots, worth $8 billion, still run the company. The other three tycoons whose businesses got off the ground during this difficult era of the Great Depression were the Hesses, Columbia Sportswear retailers, the Boyles, and the investment banking Stevens clan. Several other billion-dollar family businesses also started just before the massive downturn and survived. John Willard Marriott laid down $6,000 for a 9-stool A&W root beer stand just 2 years before the stock market crash. He stuck with the franchise, and the company stayed in the food industry until it shifted to hotels in '57. The hotel conglomerate, Marriott International, now known for high-end brands like Ritz-Carlton and Renaissance, has helped the Marriott family amass an estimated net worth of $5.7 billion. So even in times of need, there are people who are going to look to create products and services that we, the people, need. And I've given you some examples. Maybe it'll trigger some ideas in your minds. Maybe you'll come up with your own innovations. The world is changing under our feet, whether you like it or not. You can blame the left. You can blame the right. You can blame anyone you want. You can blame the Chinese laboratories. Whatever your conspiracy theory is, there are people who understand that no matter what you say, whether you want to stop the hysteria or create the hysteria or don't agree there's hysteria, really doesn't matter. The world has changed forever. And there has been a seismic shift, a tectonic plate shift. This is known as one of those times in human history where a tectonic shift has occurred. And during difficult times like this, there are people who understand not to give up, but to create products and services that the people need. I can name some that if I were younger, I would go into, but I'm not going to do it. I don't want to give them away. Maybe I'll give them to my son so he has his next business to go into. No, I don't know what business he's going to go into. I don't think he will. I have no idea what he's going to do. He may go into the public service. But in all seriousness, you can think yourself of the times we are in and ask yourself, what is the average person worried about? What can I give them that will help them that they need? Don't become one of the shills, for example, selling fake silver solution. Please, whatever you do, don't capitalize on this fear with fake products. It's disgusting. And if there's a God in heaven, as I know there is, you'll be punished in hell.
The Savage Nation. It's savage, uncut, unfiltered, and raw.
The World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.